another blackout right now. This discussion is called, um, titled Guilt Trip. And I think the reason why I gave it this title is because there was a company that I had worked for, Allied. I had worked for a company, and these guys were, the company had narcissistic traits. All right, we talk about workplace mobbing, and how gang stalking can happen there at the job, um, and harassment and all this other kind of stuff. And I don't know if you guys have seen the video where there was a Chinese lady, I believe, and she was in the office. There, see all those, stereotypical gray computers and or gray partitions and things of this nature. And the people were yelling at her, and they were watching the whole fiasco. All right, they were watching the whole fiasco, and nobody was coming to her aid. And people were cheering the people on who were harassing her, and trying to make her feel guilty for reacting the way that she was reacting. And she was telling people, get away from me, get away from me. Now supposedly this lady had COVID, and some other people in the office got it. That happens. That happens. But what I saw was something, was were people in a was a woman that was in a Roman Colosseum trying to fight off the lions. That's what I saw, and they were trying to make her feel guilty. The So here's another thing too that uh, I thought about. I read this where people, well, the Aztecs had sacrificed people to whatever god. Now I don't know the whole, why they were doing these human sacrifices, but they were doing these human sacrifices. And unfortunately, where we live in America, we have been so brainwashed, so dumbed down, and so punished when we do not put left, right. When we go right, left, we get punished. When we step out of sync in this country, we get punished. And there is a law that has been passed that they can program us, they can, use guile to capture us in any way, shape, or form. It's legal. I don't know how it got, well, I know how it got passed through because, everything is a front. When you have senators, and you have governors, and you have Congress, people in Congress in general, and the president and themselves, and the vice president, and all these people, that the first thing Kamala Harris did when she got into office, she didn't care whether people thought that she was the first black president. I mean, and that was propaganda. That damn well that she is not African American. You know, and everybody knew that. But this is something that they were propagating, and you'd go on people, and you on people's profiles, or you make a comment and something, you say, hey, she's not the first black woman to be president. She's not black. She does not consider herself a black female. She considers herself, I think her dad was from Nigeria or Ghana, and her mother Indian, Hindu, right? Nothing wrong with that. But for some reason, well, I know it's the propaganda machine, you know. Um, Sigmund Freud's Edward Bernays, right? You mess with the language, you give people a visual, right? I've gone through training several times in security, and they always say people pay attention to, I think it's like 70 or 80% of what they see, not and then what they hear. But we're visual. So basically they're saying visual, visual, visual. So that's why they're always on us. Hey, make sure that you don't look combative. You don't, your uniform is good and tight and clean and pressed and okay. So you know, but so we're being forced to absorb this type of propaganda by because it's like, well, if you see it, it's like, yes, I see a lot in that, but I'm not seeing what you're telling me I'm seeing. Okay, and there's punishments for that. So back to the Aztecs. The Aztecs would make people feel guilty after a while. You know what I mean? It was a yearly thing. We're going to sacrifice this person. We're going to sacrifice that person. All right. We're going to use this person as the goat. We're going to use this person as the scapegoat for all of our sins. And we're going to appease the gods and we're going to sacrifice one of you. Now, I'm not sure how they picked the person to sacrifice. Um, but they literally were making that person feel guilty because it's like, wow, you got this job, you're being sacrificed, your heart's going to be ripped out and eaten by our chief, and it's going to give them superpowers and make a closer connection to the gods, right? And but but the person who's being sacrificed is like, hey, I don't want to be sacrificed. This is not an honor. We don't need to do this anymore. This is something that we did, that was done when they were meeting with another tribe, and so the Aztecs just carried it on, but to make people feel guilty because they don't want to die for somebody else's superstitions, right? Because you know, um, and so the other reason why um I brought this up is because I had an encounter, or yeah, I had an encounter, and somebody had said that a certain group of people work harder, right? That they work harder. They work their asses off, is what this woman said to me. And so a lot of people don't want them here because they work their asses off. And I thought about Allied, the company that I had worked for, and how when I needed assistance for a temporary for a temporary time, they the one of their employees who had no right, no business, no authority, made it seem like I was this lazy black person. Because they said that I had quit my job because I didn't want to work 40 hours a week. So here's the thing, Phoenixes. We have come into a time, and I'm so saddened by this. It's not what they said, because see, the Most High God blessed me anyway. Sometimes it's not always intuition, or this is what I said, when you work on yourself, and somebody else said it the other day, and I was like, oh, right, either they listen to the podcast or, we're on the same wavelength, we're on the same vibration, because you have to have that spirit of discernment between what is you, what is a demonic principality, what is a monitoring spirit, what is an astral terrorist, what is a remote viewer, what is a fragmented demonic spirit that has attached itself to you to live vicariously through you and is giving you suggestions based on its personality, and what is the Most High God, and what is just your ego. And somebody, this is why you have to do your work. All right. And let me get into this, say this now. My name is Tennille, and I am a transformational coach and a narc coach. And I have a program that you can hook up with me on Fiverr. It's called From Sealed to Healed, and it is a 8-week course. And within that course, I let you know what, who, what, when, where, why, and how. I will impart to you some of my experiences, and we will discuss the occult, the supernatural, and the principles, principalities, basically. Okay, and then in the second part, because we're going to describe what cluster B personalities are. Okay, these are people who are character disturbed, my loves. I with my whole entire heart, because I see what's coming. And I see what's coming. And if you don't get aware now, if you don't start doing your work, if you don't start recognizing patterns, allowing God to reveal to you what patterns you have, and you asking and being open and willing to get the answer in a way that you know that the divine Most High God is going to reveal it to you and have your spirit team show you who, what, when, where, and how. Because that's when I was 3 years on the streets. I was forced to be on the streets. Not only was I being gang stalked, I had family members. This is the hard time. This is sometimes, my loves, it is so hard to be a seer. It is so hard to have um, superpowers because they don't do you any good when you are met. And well, it does. Let me not say that. I'm being emotional. Because you still have to wait sometimes. You still, when there are blockages, so basically, family members, there was money and there was housing that was left to me, and it was stolen. And I'm just now, to be honest with you, I am transparent. I am a transparent transformational and coach and narc coach. And because I want you to know, hey, we go through this every day, and it's not glitter and glam. Somebody told me, I've gone through so many trainings, okay, how to get your views up and all this stuff, because you got to put on makeup, you got to dress up, you got to be comical, you got to have your brand and your personality. This is it, you guys. This is it. It's not that I'm not trying to, um, you know, look my best, because I do. Hold on, this is on purpose. Hold on. So it's not like that, because it's going to keep going. But anyway, it's not that and this is what I'm talking about. This is the type of energy that's being pushed forth right now. And I've noticed it for the last 2 weeks. So something is coming for the chosen to help them through this paradigm shift, especially if you live in America, and they don't they don't want you to get it. For you to be able to receive everything that the devil stole from you plus interest would mean that they have failed, first and foremost, but also would mean that you are above them and they are your footstool. And they don't want that. They can't stand it. They want people to give up right now. And ergo, this horn going off. I have lived here for about 2 months, and there's never been a horn that's gone off. Never. So hold on, let me shut the window. She's just literally standing there. there was a woman who was just sitting there, standing there, acting like nothing's going on. There's there are people under a canopy, and like they were just literally. This is what I'm talking about. See, now it's off. Now it's off. Okay, so they just really proved my point. So people don't want you to succeed, and I've noticed people are angry, people are irritated. I shared on my TikTok, I believe that I do events, and I have to check everything, I have to clear everything, and people are looking for a reason to instigate something with other people. They want to get you wound up so that you miss your blessings, right? So that you can't focus on what you're talking about. So you have to do everything over and over and over again. But when that doesn't happen and you still keep going forward, they become enraged. So this person finally shuts off the horn. But and here's the thing, Phoenixes. She knew that it was on. She's standing out there, and it's the most bizarre thing that I have ever seen in my whole entire life. And you prance out here like nothing happened. But you know what I mean? It's bizarre. And it's not the first time I've seen something like this happen. It's the most irritating time, especially when I'm doing a podcast discussion. And again, unfortunately, right now I'm getting it where I fit in. That's it. That's about it. But so this is why you have to do the work on yourself, because you have to discern spirits, and you have to make sure that you have um, the emotional intelligence to know when to fold them and when to hold them, so to speak, right? Um, because I have been challenged, and the cool thing is, though, Phoenixes, is that the Most High God will let you know when what is happening. For instance, and because you've done the work, and so now your intuition is calibrated to to automatically accept incoming calls from the Most High God and your spirit team, because now you recognize their voice. Okay, when the when the principals and principalities realized that I was recognizing the Most High God's voice and my spirit team's voice, and I knew some of my spirit team by name, they started to screw with it. They started to screw with my relationship with it. Okay, because the whole thing, and I know that it's sad, because I just told the Most High the other day, I was like, my gosh, I was like, I really am tired of fighting this fight, because I don't know where it comes from. You know what I mean? I don't know where the origination of attacking people who are of a different vibration, right? So now we break it down in this realm, we break it down with race, but really it's about energy. You have a higher energy, and you can connect with the Most High God quicker. You can manifest quicker because you are willing to take that time, and you are willing to fast, and you are willing to pray, and you are willing to meditate, and you are willing to let go of your ego, right? So we have to induce you with fear. We have to make you think that we have the ability and the right to take your housing, to sabotage your job, to isolate you from everybody, to make sure that you don't have you're not with other high vibrating people. You are on a low, we're going to keep you down at our low frequency, so we can, because we know that you can't survive down here. So you're going to constantly be updating and upgrading yourself, and raising your vibration to survive. And we're going to continue to siphon it. You see how that works? Problem, reaction, solution. and will make you feel guilty because you're not sacrificing your energy to us. And you should have compassion. I will kid you not. I was on TikTok. And I'm so tired of TikTok, but it's another way to reach you guys, right? Reach my target audience. I was on TikTok, and there was a video where they were testing people's compassion. That's basically what it is. It was a science experiment. It was a social science experiment. And they were testing people's compassion. So you had a black male coming up to a older white male asking if he could spare any change. The man point blank said no. It does not matter. See, this is what I said in the beginning, Phoenixes, when I started my channel. You have to die to everything that you think you know. What is compassion? Who gets to dictate who is showing compassion and who is not showing compassion? And why? See, critical thinking demands that you analyze, why is somebody not showing compassion to somebody, that we, or not showing what we would call compassion in this type of situation, right? Now, this guy wasn't homeless. He looked clean. you know he had a backpack, because the video literally just starts when the guy is approaching this guy, and the younger guy is approaching this guy, and he's asking him for money, right? So they're painting the scene like a director, a cinematographer, a script writer, right? They're painting the scene. They're creating a story that can be based on reality, but it's not real. It could be a documentary. It could be this was a true story, right? To say, oh, this is a true story, but it's not really. It's a reenactment. Do you understand the fine line here, right? This is why it's hard sometimes. This is, I bet you I'd have more clients if I was talking about something willy-nilly. But when you work with me, Phoenixes, it means that you're ready to work with me, because we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. Because in order for me to defeat the entities and principles and principalities through these cluster B personalities that etched themselves, that grafted themselves into my bloodline, I had to see it for what it was, not what I was hoping it would be. I had to see the situation for what it was, not what I was hoping it would be. Okay? So, this guy is being asked. So, it's not the first time when the young guy said, "Hey, can you spare $1 or some change or anything?" And the older male said, "No, I cannot." It hurts, but it's cut and dry. It hurts the ego, doesn't it? Because I cringed when I heard it, when I was watching the video. I cringed because I know that that's a no-no. Oh God, he said no. He stuck up for himself, and he was an older white male. And this was a young black male. So the template was created for everybody to see, and immediately every preconceived notion about the stereotype about race and what we've been, programmed to think about white males or whatever comes to mind. And we taint the picture with it. So, this is why it's not, uh, it's not good sometimes, So, jeez. So anyway, I'm sorry. I'm kind of cracking up. So anyway, I was like, okay, but the guy said no. Did he not say no? And he's like, yeah, he said no. He said, and I said, but this young black male crossed a boundary, and this guy has the right to get angry, because that's what ended up happening. The black male kept asking, kept asking, kept asking, and would not shut up because it was irritating me. When I was on the streets, hold 1 minute, Phoenix. When I was on the streets, and I told this was part of my comment. I said, when I was on the streets, I didn't beg. And part of it was pride. A lot of it was pride. Because I knew that I came from a royal bloodline and I knew I was a screw up. You know, that's how I was taking everything right then for a brief moment. A few months. It didn't last long though. And so I would pick up cans and stuff, short of dumpster diving. And she lost her water. Here, baby. So I would pick up cans, bottles, plastic, whatever, whatever, whatever. And I even worked for a restaurant for $15 an hour. You know? I mopped the floors. I mean, I cleaned. I cleaned the dishes. And it was absolutely beautiful. It didn't make me better, but I was comfortable doing it that way. Right? But this guy said in his comment to me, he says, go ahead, Prosperity. He says, it's not about boundaries. It's about compassion. Did you hear what I just said? This man said, it's not about boundaries, it's about compassion. Now, people are probably saying right now, yes, it is about compassion when it comes to somebody. I don't know if this young man was homeless or not. I'm not going to side with him just because he's black. And I'm not going to hate the male just because he's white. I'm not hating anybody. But I know if you kept coming over to me, asking me for the same thing, I would change up too and become irate. Because that's what happened. But so this is an example of how we're made to feel guilty for sticking up for our rights, for protecting ourselves. This is why a lot of people don't protect themselves. This is why women, black women especially, are going through such horrific, traumatic times right now, because people are trying to make them feel guilty for sticking up for themselves, for setting boundaries and saying, no, I would rather be alone because I'm having so much fun loving myself. I can love myself better than you can love me because I've done the work and I've met my authentic self. And because I've met my authentic self, I've met God. And the narcissist cannot handle it. I mean, we have come to a time now where we are being made guilty for sticking up. Who has had a job? And the first thing we learn from this job is that if I say anything to HR is going to tell everybody. And in telling everybody, they're going to workplace mob me, make it very, hard for me to come to work every day because you're going to traumatize me, you're going to give me anxiety. You're going to do things to me that's going to trigger me to have a response like this older man had with the black male asking for change repeatedly and not taking no for an answer. And the response of the collective in that video was, what an asshole. Do you see? The response to black women saying, no, I don't want to have sex with you. No, I'm not going to let you force me into a conversation because I don't know you. I'm protecting myself. I'm out here enjoying my environment, and you have crossed a boundary. Black males in New York. are forcing themselves on black women, threatening to unalive them because nobody cares about them, and da 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 da. This is what we're coming to. So, and this is, it's not, it's for them, it's a power trip because there are many that you, why are you picking? My thing was, I heard somebody say this, and I was going to do another podcast on it, but I heard somebody say this. They said, it's a sound that TikTok has. A lady who was on TikTok. What are you listening to, baby? I know we hear these ambulances all the time, and it's actually near my old job site, and so people are always overdosing on drugs. Like one time we had like 3 or 4 do it in about an hour, and it was all on fentanyl. And I was like, why do people keep taking fentanyl when the first hit kills you? The first hit kills you. I don't get it. And people be tweaking out and overdosing. Some don't always, die, but anyway. So, and I know for myself, because I know that a lot of Phoenix is rising. If you've tuned in, you know how we rock here. So I know that a lot of Phoenixes have become enhanced and increased. It's the intensity of our empathy and our clairs can be sometimes overwhelming, right? Like I can smell the perfume or the cologne of people who are in my energy. I can smell their breath, and they may just have a thought, right? They may just have been thinking about me, and I'm like, oh God, no, please no, right? Please no. Um, I mean, it's tough. And so anyway, the example again, move baby girl. The example again. And my animals are very high alerted too. So I think it's just spiritually, because like I said, I pray for my babies night and day. I pray for them. And to shut my window again. Pray for them. And my babies have gifts. Hazel has a gift. And she's so quiet and soft-spoken, and they attacked her mobility. And we're kind of bound a bit because when she first went through it, I agreed to take on some of her pain because I was the one who initiated it in the first place by being impatient with her leash because I was being attacked. So anyway, and Prosperity has a gift, so we all are a gifted family. So it's extremely intense right now for all of us. For all of us. And it's also intense on the other side. I had an experience where I was gaslit by the manager, or I want to rephrase that. The manager decided to do some gaslighting that didn't take because the Most High God had already shown me a vision of what they were going to try and do. Because to save their comrade's butt, right? I was expendable. They sacrificed me. There are different forms of sacrifice. Let me put that there too. And there's emotional sacrifice, there's financial sacrifice, there's spiritual and energetic sacrifices, as well as a physical sacrifice. And the physical sacrifice doesn't mean that you have to die, but a physical sacrifice is, okay, you're draining, there's the witchcraft done on my finances, which is causing my finances to be drained. Right? So it's either the income is stopping or has slowed, right? And then all of a sudden I get all these bills. When the witches and warlocks were screwing with me in Sacramento, I noticed a pattern that, because I was making good money. I finally was making good money, and I was like, thank you, God. You know what I mean? That's what I said. The Most High God blesses you more than any Satanist principality, monitoring, whatever the hell that people are conjuring will. The Most High God will always reward you. And it's not that it's not a Pavlov dog thing. When you're dealing with the cluster B personality that is character disturbed, it's the Pavlov dog. That's why you only, if the bell don't ring, you don't eat. But when you follow the Most High and you are in that kingdom, the trumpets are always blaring. So every day, the blessings are raining down on you. And that is what they're stopping. Do not blame the Most High God, because they want you to blame the Most High God for that. Oh, well, you said it was going to come in. God said it, and he did it. I had God tell me directly. I said, Lord, what happened? He goes, it was them. It wasn't you. It wasn't them. It was. He goes, it was them. It wasn't you. Heard that distinctly. So you got to get on you start doing your shadow work, and either you want to do your shadow work with me, or you want to buy the workbook. Everything is in the description, and you can do the shadow work with you and God, because that's really what I did. I created the workbook because I was journaling and I was writing. I like little, those notebooks that look like college things or whatever. And I was writing while I was on the streets, while I was being attacked. So it's possible, you know? So people will make you feel guilty, and they were, for succeeding during the time where, it's thundering and lightning and there's tornadoes all around. They try and make you feel guilty for that. Well, and it's like, well, we're going to punish you, right? I was asking the Most High God a couple days ago, because the energy had just changed, and I'm like, oh my God, why do I feel like I'm like a kid again and like I'm being punished? Well, because it's that energy, okay? When people tell you, people have to understand what pathological jealousy and envy is. It means that they are trying to destroy you, because they don't feel that you need it. They don't feel that you have a right to it. Whatever that blessing, that divine download that's about to rain down on you, your ships, you're at the port, and God is unloading. And now they got to pack up. You got a little bit of something, something, but they got to pack up and go before the whole ship is destroyed. Because this cluster B, this malignant narcissist, this covert narcissist, this borderline personality, right? This histrionic or whatever, you've rejected them, him or her. They don't know where to go now. They've always been able to manipulate their way. See, they manipulate while we pray. They manipulate while we pray. So don't ever think that it's God. It's frustrating, it's irritating, because I'm still going through it now. And I think most of us are. But it's about that time. Like, I was like, why am I feeling giddy? So here's this one energy, and this intense energy that's trying to make me feel bad, that's trying to make me feel guilty, that I feel like a little child, like I'm going to be punished, right? But on the same time, I'm recovering, I'm healing. All that cortisol and adrenaline that I had that got used up during the, 8 years of me being 12 years total, but the 8 years over there being gang stalked and having, witches and gang members like literally trying to end my life and cause me pain for the simple fact of telling the truth, standing my ground, and setting a boundary. So the TikTok video that I saw, where the guy, when I made the comment that the young black male was harassing this guy and wouldn't take no for an answer. They said it's not, and he was going again. I told him, I said he's going against their boundaries. He told me the comment that I got was, it's not about boundaries, it's about compassion. So I have to allow you to burst into my home that I've paid for, that I had to scrimp and save and work 2 and 3 jobs to get. I had to sleep out of the car. You know what I mean? Where I raised the kids and all this stuff. And you're telling me that I have to lower my boundaries so that this person who I don't know is homeless, the older white guy didn't know if this guy was homeless or not. And it wasn't about race, but they were playing with people's minds. They had set the stage to get your reaction. It's a social experiment. What is it? The Travis Stock Institute? Somebody needs to look that up. And I thought about it. It's like, I was made to feel guilty because I would not continue with the previous security company that I was with. And they lied on me when I needed to get some social services temporarily. They lied on me and told the people that, oh, this person didn't want to work 40 hours a week, so they quit. Number one, I hadn't quit, I was homeless again. I had to stay in a shelter because they wouldn't allow, in the shelter, I couldn't leave my dogs alone. But see, here's God. Had already seen it, and God's doing the same thing now. And I'm a little bit resistant because I'm just like, Lord, I can't keep going through this. I don't want to. So there's times where things become a definitive choice, and it's not just poor me, poor me. It's like you just, and we go through this, like, I'm going to be obedient to God, but I'm like, hey, I don't, if this is going to be the case and they're going to continue to sabotage me, the spirit is going to keep hopping from person to person to person to person. Right? But that's my conversation with Pop. That's my conversation with my father. Okay? But so the company, they didn't want to know the background or anything else like that. And so they ended up sanctioning me so that I could get no benefits or could not ever reapply for like a month or so. But here goes God. God had already told me, go ahead and get this job, go to this interview. And actually, it was this is the reason why you're obedient, and we cannot. And I know I just said what I said, but and I'm a knucklehead. But this is the reason why we have to be obedient to the Most High God, because I could have already been making a second check, and I'm going through the same thing right now. Because I can already tell, God told me last month that they were going to try and destroy Phoenix is Rising Academy. God already told me that they were going to try and make me homeless again, that they were going to try and sabotage my job. Okay? So God was like, do this, 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 and this. And he was speaking to me through other people because right now my body is on a break from doing all this fasting, right? And from all the fasting that I did for 3 or 4 years. I think it was about 4 years I ended up doing the intermittent fasting. And then basically I got out of whack because when the spiritual warfare was thick, I couldn't eat. One, Carolyn Leaf, if you guys go look her up, she is a neurologist. She's a brain doctor. And so she's coming from a scientific perspective of you are what you speak. Okay, and I've learned so much from her. And I started listening to her way back in 2009, 8 and 9. I think 2005 to 2000 or 2008. Anyway, I was listening to Dr. Carolyn Leaf, Australian. I think, is she Australian? I think so. But anyway, beautiful woman, absolutely genius, right? So you can rebuild your mind. You can rebuild things, okay? God didn't like the lady what was her name? uh the lady with the cells, I forget. Anyway, so you could rebuild your mind, but anyway, God had already, it was my fault because I could have already been making another paycheck, but I also didn't want to get into the place that I was supposed to apply for because I was afraid. Okay, so I still had fear lodged in. I ended up staying on the streets for one night, and then I was in a picked up right away. Okay, and that was by other people saying, hey, do this, do this, do this, right? So now I'm in the phase of, hey, do this, do this, do this. This time it's not that I'm not being obedient, but I am under heavy warfare. So all of a sudden, all my energy is gone, and the next thing I know, I'm asleep. I've had several days off. I'm going to work the weekend, and then I'll have another several days off. I have to take these tests to be obedient to the Most High God, okay? So I'm working on it, but sometimes it's not our fault, right? Sometimes it's not our fault, but we have to be able to discern that, spiritually. Like now, I'm not being too obdurate. I'm just You know, why can't these people just go somewhere else? Why am I? Because, and I've said this before, because once you're on the radar, it almost, people say, why do I keep attracting narcissists? You're not attracting them. They are a collective like the Borg. They are a spiritual demonic network. And so once you've defeated one, others come in. It does not matter. They get the ignorance. They every like the Borg. If you've watched Star Trek, they all got the same download. They're like, okay, let me try. Oh, that death spell didn't kill her, girl. I'm gonna eat some feces and I'm gonna make her life feel like it's shit. And I'm not kidding you. I have somebody in my energy, and I said, why does my breath smell like poo poo? I said, I was asking myself, I was like, girl, because I am about some mouthwash. I learned that on the streets. You know what I mean? I didn't want it was vanity. I didn't want my teeth to fall out. I didn't want my locks when I had, the locks at the time. I didn't want, I mean, I knew that they were going to have dog hair in them and everything else, but I didn't want them to fall out either. Right. So I was really paying attention to the hygiene. Ergo, while I got a gym membership and would go there and use the toiletry and use the shower. Okay, so when I say that again, I'm not going to deny my gifts, and my Phoenix says I don't want you to deny your gifts either. But this person that was in my energy thought that if they ate poo poo, that I would, because they were in my energy, I guess, and they were projecting onto me. And we are all energy. I've said this before. People see your energy, they see your vibration, right? They say the eyes are the gateway into the soul. So, and I haven't done a lot of research on that, but maybe that's where people can see your soul. I know I used to look into people and be able to collect data, but it also scared people because it's like, okay, well, I can't get anything past you, so the I can't groom you. I can't, do any of that. And so life became really boring. But with when somebody is projecting, so for instance, there's a guy that when I walk to work, I pass him. If I go down a certain street, I pass him. And one day he had a bag of corn chips. And it all of a sudden everything clicked. I said, this is the guy that's in my energy, because he used to say hi to me and look at me and all this other stuff, right? Being the pervert that he is. And sometimes it's not perverted, but he was perverted. Sometimes guys just look, that's what they do. And doesn't mean, just because your sexual orientation is straight or gay or whatever, doesn't mean that anybody of whatever sex wouldn't look at you, right? So because you're attractive, if you're, especially if you're vibrant high, that's attractive to a lot of people. So I passed him, and because I had been smelling corn chips, I was like, God, who is eating corn chips? And it was annoying because it stinks. It really does. I mean, like, I've eaten corn chips. I try and get the chili kind because it doesn't make me think about the stink, too much, right? So this guy is, and I was like, oh God, I keep smelling it. And it was a couple days going by, not every day, but just, a couple days, and I'd smell it. And I'm like, ah. So when he pulled out that bag of corn chips, and it wasn't, so here's the thing with us, Phoenix is Rising. We see behind the veil, and people are going to call us crazy, and check and make sure that you're not. I'm not going to die. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor. I'm a transformational coach. I guide you. I'm a consultant. Figure it, So I can't tell you. but when we see, I can see sometimes with us, with those of us who are empaths, and we have this knowing, people don't hide anymore. So the demon that is behind the flesh will pop out. And this guy looked at me like a little child, nan, 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 and I was like, ooh, okay. And I walked, and I went, I just kept going to work. I said, okay. But I don't, I'm not going to make it a point to keep running into him, but for some reason, wasn't even thinking when I was walking down there. And I was like, oh, that's right. This is the guy. And so then, and I said, okay, now I just figured out who corn chip person is, right? Because I didn't know if it was a male or female. All I know is that your breath smells like stinky ass corn chips. So, but, So people will try and deaden your gifts, right? Um, and I forgot where I was going with that, but let me bring it back. So the guilt. So with the old other company that was the security company that was lying on me because I hadn't talked to them. There was no reason to talk to them. I was homeless and living in a shelter, right? So this is my second time being homeless in it's been 3 years now, right? Or actually it had been 2.5. So anyway, there was no reason for them to do that except for to try and get me to be denied for something which worked, right? Because I had already said, and God had already said, I said, this is a narcissistic company, and you're treating me like a Pavlov dog because that's what narcissists will do. Narcissists will bat you around like a cat with a dead mouse right before they bite your head off, right? So it's sometimes it's not just you. Sometimes it's not you when you've done your work. There was a lady who said, I am not responsible. It is not my fault when people mistreat me. And I think at this stage, if you've done the work, if you've done your shadow work and you know, and you and God have been like, yeah, it's like God told me, it's not you. It's not you, baby. It's them. They did that. Right? And here I am, it's like it's not that I don't express frustration to the Most High God respectfully, but I'm not losing that hope though. And that's what the Satan is trying to take from us is that hope. Right? And it's they're trying to take that confidence. So if I attack you, right, and I tell you, I accuse you of not having compassion for a young man who is begging for money, who looks clean, doesn't look like he's homeless, and even if he was homeless, I don't have to give him money. There was a home, and I'll be transparent. There was a homeless lady who, and I don't know if she was homeless because a lot of people um, are they're staying someplace, but they're unkept, right? Because they have mental issues and they're unkept. That and people just want the money. They're just literally taking their social security checks. That's what's happening here. Where I'm staying. This is people are just taking the social security checks, but then you have the cluster B personalities, and I've already met a couple here. That's what I'm saying. You're not attracting them, but when you smell each other, there may be a war that pops off. you know and usually it's going to be from the one whose character disturbed. It's going to be from the cluster B personality. It's going to be from the narcissist because they're insecure while you're centered. Again, that's why a lot of black women are being unalived and harassed and made to feel guilty for setting boundaries against men, women, and everybody else who's been siphoning our energy for God knows how long. It's amazing to me that we get guilt tripped. Or somebody says, well, how are you going to have sex with another woman? Any way we can. I mean, Jiminy Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's got to be the dumbest question that I have ever heard. When I remember when I came out of the closet and guys wanted me to be bisexual. Being bisexual was more palatable because that meant that I was catering to his needs. And I could still, and I remember a church guy telling me this, and he said, well, you can't be blessed and gay. But he was the one that said, but you're not gay, you're not lesbian, you're bisexual. Like, so you're telling me what I am. And then they show all these pictures and all these news, all the news reports and whatnot, especially. And TikTok is really bad. So here's why I don't like TikTok. TikTokers have begun to use TikTok um, to exploit people. And I've asked people, like I said, when you're working with me, Phoenixes, you will come out, you will have your etheric wings again. I don't know if any of you have ever been able to spread your wings and fly in the spiritual realm, and there is such thing as etheric, etheric, however you say it, wings. And I used to do it, you know, whatever, because some of us come in here and we're already, we're already ready. Um, and I believe now, the more that I'm in this realm, the more and the more that I have been able to remember because of everything that I clear out daily. Like I have to clear stuff out daily. But just the wisdom that comes is absolutely beautiful. And so it's gotten me thinking about other realms and dimensions and stuff like that. But when you work with me as a transformational coach and a narc coach, you're going to have to come into your higher self. And I, at the beginning, when I first started this transformational coaching and narc coaching, I told people, I was like, I am not going to breastfeed you. I am not your mammy. And I think that that is what people are wanting out of the black woman, because we all sense that there is something going, and maybe black people in general, or people who have gone through so much trauma generation by generation by generation, and they have not been wiped out, because that was the goal. I remember when I was 15, there was a Russian Jew guy who was a carpenter who was telling me, he said, yeah, it's been predicted that you guys will be, black people will be dead by 2015. And this is not a game. That's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he predicted. And he looked forlorn, and he looked like, like he was sorry for me. You know what I mean? Like it was a given. He was saying, sorry that you're getting ready to die. You feel me, Phoenixes? That's something that somebody actually said to me. And I was 15. Said, sorry, it's been predicted that your people are getting ready to die. So there is this thing where people are trying to kill the spirit of black people, of black women, namely. Because right now, with the it's this it's this forced gender war in the black community. And it's not just it's not just I had it, but there's this. I believe that it's a concocted gender war against black people. Oops, against black men and black women, and a little bit, I got that they're trying to get black women to give completely up on all black men, so that whoever is designated now, right? Because when because right now, and this is why you need to do your work, Phoenixes, because you need to be able to reclaim your birthright, reclaim your bloodline, and reclaim your blessings. Okay? The only way that you can do that is you have to know. You have to know who, what, when, why, or how, and you have to take responsibility for whatever has gone on, for what, for that you've done to, motivate that. I mean, that was the hardest thing. Like, I found out I was a racist. I found out I was a sexist in this body. I found out a lot of crap about myself, you know, but, and I had to clear that out. Simply just change, just being able to change course is enough. Being able to just change course. So, what happened? All right. Okay, sorry guys. That said that there was something wrong, so I don't know if you heard it, but was talking about there's this constructed gender war going on in the black community, between black males and black women, trans women and biological women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and I believe that that is because when we're in a transition, and those who were in control before are changing the reign, changing over the helm. Like we're supposed to be getting our blessings, they're changing over to their whoever's, taken on the mantle for them. And narcissists never want to be left out in the cold, right? And so, how do you get somebody to put up with your crap? I mean, like black people have literally pulled it's and this goes back to the black guy asking for change and them setting it up as this elderly white guy is being mean to this black guy, and it could have been street theater. You know what I mean? As those of us who have survived gang stalking, I don't let me know what you're, if you've seen that video on TikTok where a young black male is asking repeatedly for change, and he's not getting it because somebody set a boundary for him. Um, anyway, so, but when the people who you have killed with impunity, you have, and this is where it's not about race, it's about spiritual, it's about principles and principalities. So it's not about race, it's about the energy of certain the energetic needs of certain entities. And I really strongly believe that. And when black women are the biggest producers because we are the originators, right? So God chose us, right? Um, to be able to take on that mantle and to be the creators. But we trans we 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 process and transmute and recreate a lot in the spiritual realm. And when you're dealing with narcissists, we know the narcissistic pattern is if I can't do it, you can't. If I can't benefit from it, you can't. Right? So when you have all these black men who have taken, I live right next door to one, and the snitching is I had to remind myself from history lessons that the reason why Serapis was made into and is now the image of Jesus is because you had somebody who got their 30 pieces of silver and gave up the legacy of black people in ancient times. So was in ancient times, you know, that this started. And so now we're clearing out, and you don't, and when you have narcissists who are like, okay, geez, I don't want to take responsibility for my actions. I want now all of a sudden, oh yeah, you're great. Oh, you know what? Oh, they may apologize. Yeah, I should have just kept driving. They will never apologize for exactly what they did to you. They will always apologize for not shutting the door, or not taking out the garbage when they should have taken out the garbage, or maybe not talking to you right when you had the baby, or afterwards, or maybe have to try being there next time for the pregnancy. There's stories that I've heard like that, and I can't imagine, right? Because I'm not built like that. I'm not flipping built like that at all. I'm not built to be lazy like that. um So when because we're rising, you can always tell who is about ready to get blessed when, because the devil starts attacking them, right? And so you got black men who are attacking black women to try and condition them. They're attacking them sexually. They're attacking the girls. They're attacking the boys. They're attacking because boundaries have been set and they reclaimed their birthright. So, I mean, in this, I know I titled it Guilt Trip, but it's more than just a guilt trip. This is a death sentence. And that is what having pathological envy is all about. That's somebody who wants to be you, wants to have what you have. I have a stalker still to this day. This woman is deathly sick, but she is obsessed with me. I'm not sure why, but I always recognize her when the attacks come. And because it's the same stuff time after time after time after time after time. And I can feel the sickness, right? So the same spells uh, to take away my housing, the same spells to um, kill my animals, my fur babies, the same stuff, the same spells to make sure I don't get any TikTok views. And I think that's actually like manually done too. But you know what I mean? It's the same spells because if I'm setting a boundary and I'm not allowing toxic, demonic, evil people into my energy, and I'm calling people out, and I'm avoiding. Yesterday or a couple days ago, I'll end with this. A couple days ago, I was at my job, and they, there was too many employees that were booked, and so they were having to send people home because they couldn't find places for everybody. And they said, well, you know, you can go home in 4 hours, or you can go home now and you'll get 2 hours. And I wasn't feeling it because of the attacks, right? So they're prepping for the moon. And what I didn't like was that the supervisor came up to me, and I was guarding the fence, and this is where he put me. Then suddenly, because a male, Hispanic male, wanted to be placed there, he didn't want to go home, and for some reason, he came up to this supervisor. Now, this guy wasn't even on our the roster. Understand me? Like he wasn't meant to be there, but he came over there and he talked to the supervisor, and the supervisor had uh, had previously already told another heavy set, fat, you know, a black woman that you can't. He put her on the fence too, to guard the fence, and then another Hispanic guy complained. And now when I'm mentioning because there's bravado, there's misogyny in the Hispanic community, and there's others community too, but this is what we were dealing with. And so, and because she's the one that said it, she's like, no, it's because they wanted to put the Hispanic guy there, and he's like, you know, he has the power to arrest, and she said, so do I. Oopsie, oopsie, right? And so and two, I already knew that there was going to be a fight because um, we went up in pay, right? And so sometimes it's not that people want to do their job. It's that people just want to be um, to get the most out of it. You know what I mean? They want not to get the most out of it. That's the wrong word. From what I've seen, people will milk hours. If you're making $25 an hour, people want to be on that site that has the $25 an hour. Doesn't mean that they're going to work. You got 12 people who are over. You're getting rid of the black females, which is what they did. And then you're wording it like, well, you could either go home now because you really can't protect you know what I mean? Do you really think that you could do this? And it was like, whoa, it was fat shaming. I don't really remember what he said right now, the whole in its entirety. Um, but I chose to leave, and I chose to call in that I had clocked out. That's it. And it's not, you know, you just don't go off site. You say, hey, I'm clocking out. They're telling us to leave. So I didn't go down to command. I just clocked out because it's right there. You know? And I was hurt because I was being fat shamed. So I left because there's too many people, and I left because of being fat shamed, and I left because I was already tired. I think I already knew something was going to happen that day. I just didn't know what, and I was tired of fighting. Right? Like, of course, I would have wanted more hours, but and the lady was like, other lady who had the same thing happen to her. We both called scheduling. I just clocked out, and she talked with the lady. They're like, look, they're telling us to go home. But so anyway, that's a whole nother story. But they tried to punish me for walking off because of what was said to me. Like that was the only thing, right? So again, there is this battle, and this was another black male. This was a black male who made that fat shaming comment. And we looked around us and we said, well, there's an obese guy down at the other gate. They replaced me with the skinny guy, right? Who didn't have handcuffs or anything else like that. So there was really no reason, but I wasn't going to fight it. But just when you're adding insult to injury, and that was enough for me. But it was the punishment, right? It was the whole thing of, it's hard working and being an empath because there's only certain rules and certain things that you're supposed to say and that you're supposed to do, right? Before they start blacklisting you. And that's what, I'm nervous of that. Because when they start blacklisting you, then it's, oh, you know, you need to go because now you've become a threat. So that's what I'm saying. These guys are trying to guilt trip so that you assimilate into what they want, because they don't want to be left out when the blessings get handed out. They don't want to be left out. And if they can't have it, you can't. So there's several things that are happening today. That's why I talked about the title of this guilt trip, because it's, later on, and I was tried to make to feel guilty. It's like, oh well, you left and da da da. And then thinking about it now, the same lady who I talked to that night was the same lady I talked to this morning. And she feigned ignorance. She didn't think, but she was the one saying that she was going to report it. Right? So you never know, because and sometimes it's not even that people are they're trying to save their own asses, right? I remember once they can get you in that loop, because this is what this demonic energy and entity wants to do. They want to get you. When I was being gang stalked, I noticed too many deja vu incidences. That's when you saw that in the Matrix. Those of you who have watched the Matrix, that meant that there was trouble, did it not? Neo said when he first started, he said, oh, that's weird. And Trinity said, what? And all of them stopped. And he said, I saw the black cat come, and then now it's here again. And she was like, give me details. What time? What happened? Right? So that is a real occurrence, because that means that you're not moving forward, that somebody is continuously putting you back. This is what happened to my mom. My mom was a victim of gang stalking and was unalived by the golden child for uh, insurance purposes, of which I was left out of, right? Um, but she was being gang stalked. She was being harassed by the same people and entities that are harassing me, right? So sometimes we have this where it's like, we notice these little phenomenon. There was again the oh God, was the deja vu, right? That is not a good thing to have. I remembered being on this when I was being gang stalked. I would have too many deja vu instances, but now what I realize, because I just had something happen the other day, where these these people were out one time, and God just brought it up to me, and I've noticed it a few times and I haven't paid attention to it. And because I haven't paid attention to it and I haven't reacted to it, it hasn't taken, right? So they keep doing these witchcraft spells. It's a time loop spell. Basically it's a loop to keep you going in the same circles and never making anything of yourself. So, and that never moving forward, which means that you'll never move forward in your purpose. And if you do move forward, then they're going to attack your finances. They're going to attack your mind. They're going to attack your spirit. They're going to get people to think evil stuff about you. I mean, you guys have survived it. You already know it, right? And so that's That's what I'm telling you, Phoenix, is you got to hang on. Do not, there's nothing for you to feel guilty about surviving. You went through stuff, and nothing to feel guilty about gaining weight. You know, I mean, God is so good, and I'm so grateful that I am here, because there are different types of people, but the devil wants you to worry about the ones that he sends, okay, because that fuels them. But when you don't worry about it, it's like, okay, well, what am I doing wrong, right? Okay, so, but at my job, that's just like when I told a coworker, and he's a cutie booty, and I told a coworker about this security guard who was, fucking tripping. Excuse my language, was tripping because I would open the door by myself. I mean, imagine that. You can't make this stuff up anymore, man. But it confirmed to me when I said that these guys, these cluster B characters, do not. They, I mean, you could stub your toe, and they can hear you wince, and that's an offense because they had to hear it. You know, Hazel, where are you? Hey, Munchkin. Oh, okay. Sorry. Um, but so I told. Suddenly, I have a good crew, and I noticed that that's one of the hardest attacks, when I'm starting to bond with people. I had started to bond at the first job that I came to, when we first landed, and that was all taken away, you know, because people want to dictate and have power over others, right? Black males want to dictate, so toxic, narcissistic black males want to dictate and have power over black women. And they're saying nobody cares about black women anyway, so we can unalive you. In that, they're getting power. I mean, and nobody sees the red flags to this, because not only are black males saying this to black women, there are other males who may have a bit of jungle fever, who are taking this to heart, and are saying, okay, well, if black males feel this way, then I can too, right? I mean, it's like the security guard who in my building, who's thinking to me, you should be grateful that you can grace my presence, but you're working here, dude. You didn't build the building, nor are you any part of management. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's you know what I've heard her have other people say, and it hasn't, done anything to me, but because I know, because it's absolutely insane. But it's the insanity. It's not the insanity. It's the thing that they want to break down barriers, and that they do with impunity because they have no conscience. So that's the thing that I'm concerned with you, Phoenix, is staying prayed up, is having the spirit of discernment. You may have to start fasting, right? Listen to that negging that's going on inside of you and say, okay, I got to get this done. I got to get that done. Then do it. Do not procrastinate, right? If the most, like, I'm not well traveled, but if the most high God says, hey, you got to come here, you got to go there, I'm like, okay. you know, what type of vehicle do you want me to take, right? Because then the principles and principalities will do is they will try and confuse you. Did you really hear from God? Right? And I've been feeling, I know I've been feeling all of this. So basically, they're trying to find ways to take us back so that we don't move forward, you know? And I don't want that for you guys. So do not, and one of those ways is trying to guilt trip you into setting boundaries, keeping boundaries, and working on you and relying on the Most High. And there's nothing to feel guilty about. Because a lot of people are falling into intellectual, psychic, spiritual, physical abyss. And I don't want that for you, Phoenixes. So I'm done here. I'm going to get off. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I had to turn the the air conditioning on, and these guys, I know you guys want to get out. They've been in here all day. I got thrown. I just admittedly, I got thrown off my center, and I had to, pray, and I had to meditate. I had to rebuke. I had to decree, all over again. You know, um, because these guys get impatient when they can't get into your energy, and that's basically what it is. So please cover yourself with prayer, the Psalms, whatever. As you know, as I decree, so shall it be with the universe's efficiency. That's what I say. All right. So if you guys want the empathic listener services or any of my programs or workshops, please go to the links in the bio or in the profile. And the header, little icons on my link tree and all that stuff. And just check me out. And thank you so much for supporting me. And remember, Phoenixes, your blessings are in your ashes. Rise.